TSP Weekly. This is your tech startup podcast for Thursday, June the 4th, 2015. Today we are once again at the Magnet Forensics offices. We are not talking to Magnet Forensics this time, but we were lucky enough to have access to this beautiful boardroom with lots of natural light and actually some interesting mood lighting going on here today.
Very moody.
So, and we'll tell you how we got in this room in a second when we introduce our guests. But let me introduce myself first. My name is Darren Conley. I'm a local tech entrepreneur here in Kitchener-Waterloo. And joining me as always is my wonderful co-host, Mr. Stephen Campbell. How are you today, Stephen?
I'm wonderful. We're in the community chest room today.
Oh, is that what it's
How's
actually
your Monopoly
called?
Memory?
Yeah, I prefer the chance room usually.
Yes.
We can get into that. But
very nice. Yeah, so this is the community chest room.
Yeah.
Pick
excellent.
a card.
Yeah. Pick a card, indeed. Well, let's introduce our guests. Joining us today, we have two wonderful guests with us, and I'm going to try really hard to pronounce both their first names and last names correctly. We practiced beforehand. First, we have Amaris.
Yes.
Gerson?
Gerson?
We didn't talk about the last name.
Gerson.
You were so close, though.
I'm just going to call you Amaris. And
that's totally fine. It's like Cher or Madonna. I'm okay with that.
Perfect. Excellent. And also joining us is Miss Melina Cormier.
Yes.
Cormier.
Very good.
Pulling out the French pronunciation here. Amaris and Melina are both work with our local chapter of HackerNest, and maybe you guys could tell us what your official roles are in HackerNest.
Well, I wouldn't say that we work with Hacker because we're not paid. We're actually volunteers.
Right.
So that's kind of a big distinction.
But there is work performed.
Oh, there's lots of work performed. But yes, we are. I'm the lead organizer for the local HackerNest. So HackerNest KW.
Right.
We call that a splinter cell. There's 21 of them. So we are the KW splinter cell.
Gotcha.
The lead organizer, and you are.
What do you do, Melina?
I'm sort of the manager of our volunteers.
Gotcha.
You're a co-organizer, too.
Co-organizer, yes. So I kind of help with all the stuff Amaris doesn't have time to do.
Now, since Amaris is a volunteer, as she mentioned, do you manage her as well, or?
She totally does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
That's a big job.
Sounds like you just gained some responsibility that you didn't have before, Melina.
No, she kind of handles the when I need to freak out or vent or something. That's Melina's job. We actually have 4 other organizers.
Okay.
But I figured that was probably a bit too much for your podcast.
Sure. Do you want to throw a shout out to those people?
So Gavin Kendall is one of our co-organizers. He's a lovely Australian, and he handles our cross promo and other random duties as assigned regarding our meetup and other things. And then there's David Sum, who handles our posting on all community calendars and other random duties as assigned. He gets the beer. He responds to frantic text messages from me at random hours.
Sure.
What's up, Dave?
Yeah.
Shout out to Dave.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah.
And actually, Gavin does that too. So does Melina.
Oh, fair
Thank you, guys.
And then there's Joel Hobson. Is that his last name? Yeah, Joel. We just call him Joel.
Sure, Joel. Yeah. We're on first name basis only for this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, and he handles a lot of other random duties as assigned. He makes sure the volunteers have pizza and us as well. He handles some other stuff. And then there's Susan. I can't say her last name, so we'll just go with Susan.
Gotcha.
And she writes our emails that I actually send out, but she writes them. And then she also handles any random stuff I throw at her.
Excellent.
Can we go back to this thing about pizza?
Yeah. So if you're a volunteer for HackerNest, meaning you show up at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And you help us set up and move beer and move tables and move chairs, all that kind of stuff, we give you pizza. Not the nicest pizza, but we give you pizza.
Awesome. You know, pizza is pizza. I mean, there's any kind of pizza is already, you're at like a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. And then the great pizza, is over, puts it up higher.
You're getting into a very dangerous area here, Darren.
Am I really?
Talking about pizza.
Do you have strong opinions about pizza?
No, but I think people do out there.
Yeah, Melina knows all
Yes.
about my strong opinions about pizza. I actually hate pizza.
What?
Yeah, but whatever. We do it for our volunteers. So.
How is that possible? I have a 5-year-old son who doesn't like pizza either, which I think is insane.
Does he
I respect
hate it,
him.
Well, let me put it this way. So every Wednesday in his junior kindergarten, they have pizza day where literally the entire rest of his class has pizza except for him.
What does he have
doesn't want
then?
pizza.
Celery and carrot sticks or something?
The
usual
sandwich or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So but like the whole class, literally the whole class, and then him. So anyway, fair enough.
I respect that.
Yeah, we're not here to talk about pizza as much. We're happy to talk about it when it comes up, but we'd like to find out a little bit more about HackerNest. Now, full disclosure, we should mention we had on one of our very earliest episodes, I think it was episode two.
Yeah.
Episode 2, we had Sammy
Waffa.
Waffa, who was the former organizer of HackerNest in this area. And that's pretty much exactly a full year ago, I think.
That's right.
That we had him on. So maybe this is our annual HackerNest
Yeah,
episode.
We're okay with that. Well, and at that time, we're actually just turned 2 in KW, so
Right.
perfect.
Yeah.
You can be our annual celebration. You're a bit
Excellent.
late,
That's
but
awesome.
whatever.
It's birthday time.
Yeah.
And we had Sammy on just as Neville was leaving. So I think he was sort of holding your chair for you warm at that
Right.
time.
Yeah, so I had actually... I started that same time, but Sammy had started just a bit before, so he was working with Neville, and I started being an organizer as Neville was leaving. So that last event that Neville had, that was my first organizer event.
Right.
And then the next one, they kept labeling me as New Neville. The New
Right.
Neville, I was New Neville for... I don't know, maybe 6 months, and now I'm just Amaris, and that's okay. No one has to call me Neville.
It's nice to be known by your own name.
Yeah.
So Neville flew the coop down to New York. Did
Yeah.
he start a HackerNest down
did he
there?
ever.
And didn't we beat them at several events that we had?
Oh, we did, but no longer. New York's a large city. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but it's quite large.
I've
heard.
it.
And so we kind of pressured, we as in the HackerNest organizer team from out of Toronto and the lead team, well, Neville, you're moving to New York, you got to do it.
Yeah.
And then he did, and quickly went to monthly, from bi-monthly to monthly, which took us about a year and a half to do here in KW. And they now have huge events.
Right.
Like well over 200, maybe even 300. I don't check in anymore because...
Yeah, that's their own thing. So for those who haven't heard,
What the heck is a
episode
HackerNest?
2, and what's HackerNest all about?
So HackerNest is an international not-for-profit organization, and I'm not going to try and sound like a commercial, but we strive to build and connect the tech communities in cities other than San Francisco, or create that San Francisco sort of network that's, San Francisco is known for tech, but in other cities. So we, like I said, we happen in 21 splinter cells around the world.
Yeah.
We're in Kuala Lumpur, we're in Tbilisi, Georgia, we're in, I think we just started in Singapore, New York, obviously, Manchester, Boston. I think there's one in Calgary, there's one in Vancouver, there's one in Montreal. Obviously, we started in Toronto, so that's our biggest one.
Sure. And did the whole organization start in Toronto?
Yeah,
Their
so
Canadian group?
Yep. And our offices, our head office, like HackerNest head office, is based in DMZ in Toronto.
Okay. And are there paid members in HackerNest somewhere? Or is it all volunteer?
It's all volunteer. Everyone does it volunteer. Obviously, there are costs that need to be covered, so that sort of happens. But it is volunteer. No one's actually making a salary. No one's really getting paid.
Sure.
There are some perks that go out, but really, it's more like you drove a bajillion miles. Here's some help to pay for that. That's about the extent it goes. But really, everyone's 100% volunteer.
Wow. So when we come to a HackerNest event, and maybe we should just outline what HackerNest events typically look like. I've been to a bunch myself, but I should let you guys describe maybe what's it like. So yeah, Melina, tell us about what it would be like if I had never been to a HackerNest event and I was planning on going. What would I expect to see and experience?
They're pretty low key as far as a relaxing kind of event for everybody to get together and meet new people.
Sure.
I should clarify, sometimes not relaxing for us as organizers.
Fair enough.
You'll see us running around with our heads cut off.
Yeah.
But yeah, the members really just, they come and they plan to have a good time.
Yeah.
Talk to other people in the community, make new friends. There's no agenda or talk. There's a 15-minute spiel from Amaris about things that are going on in the community.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there food and drink?
No food.
One or the other, yeah?
Unless you can find the pizza.
Yeah, we do have pizza kind of.
Sometimes the pizza's hidden in the back.
If you really need pizza, sometimes we do have cake.
Right.
But we do have beer, water, and wine.
Yeah.
And yeah, we do have some food, but it's really just about the beer, water, and wine.
Sure. And if HackerNest doesn't have any kind of money for this stuff, how does the beer, water, and wine show up?
So we survive 100% based on our sponsorship. So there are local organizations that sponsor us. Sometimes that's the same sponsor for 6 months. Sometimes that's a sponsor for one event only or 3 events. We also survive off of donations. So when you come to a HackerNest event, there is no charge. But we like donations, so we try and give our donors props. We give them fun stickers.
Yeah.
That's how we survive.
Okay, fair enough.
One of the cool things for me about the HackerNest event is that it's not only sponsored by companies that give you free beverages, but it's sponsored by companies that invite you into their home, right? So as a HackerNest participant, I've been able to see that Google has mouthwash in their bathroom, but not use their slide. I was able to get in and see Thalmic Labs and their really cool smart screen.
Yeah.
And so there's all kinds of different. Magnet just hosted it last time.
Yeah.
And I think next Monday we're at Bolt May,
Yeah,
right?
we are.
So talk to me about that process. How do you get people to volunteer to have 100 to 300 crazy tech geeks invade
Hanging
their
out in their
workspace?
office space, yeah.
I smile a lot. So we define that differently, that there's a sponsor and then there's a host.
Right.
Right.
Sometimes it's the same. So if that host has decided to not only give us space, but also support us financially,
Yeah.
that's a different relationship. We love that. But a host is, like you said, it's basically like an open house, sort of like an open house for a bunch of nerds to come into your office. The way that we get those organizations, those companies to let us in is because I go everywhere.
That's true.
Yeah, you've probably seen me at every event that
Yeah.
happens, and that's actually part of my job here.
I thought that A-frame you carry around was pretty heavy, but
Fair enough.
So I go and I ask, and as we get more of a presence in the community, there are companies that reach out to me and want to host, and I go check out the spaces, give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down based on where it is and how big it is.
Sure. And what's in it for the companies who decide to host or the ones who decide to sponsor?
You just get great exposure.
Okay.
So a lot of companies struggle to have the community even know that they exist. It also is a great way to show your employees that you care and you support this community.
one of my favorite was ClearPath Robotics.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
that
no,
was
a good one.
just so cool to be able to get in there and we just hung out and partied with a bunch of robots.
I know.
Yeah.
And that was actually my first one as a lead organizer.
Yep.
But,
cool.
That was one of my favorites. Congratulations. Yeah.
It was robots.
Yeah.
It's
And so
hard-
that one
hard
was in
to-
a weird spot. We're like, ClearPath is kind of far out. It's not on a bus route, but screw it. There's robots.
right
Yeah,
by my house.
yeah.
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 It's perfect.
And it's cool when they can set up like demonstrations, which we had there, right? They had the Oculus out showing some VR stuff. They had robots doing
Yeah.
song
Crushing
and
beer
dance.
cans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And at one point, a pair of wheels and a stick and a monitor rolled up to me, and it was like one of their guys from
Yeah,
California.
it's their CTO. It's
Yeah.
CTO Ryan.
Yeah.
So he wanted to be there. I was actually arranging with him, and he's like, I got to be out of town. And then he showed up on
on robot
On
form.
robot
yeah,
form,
Yeah,
so-
so cool.
remotely dialed in.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So this, the HackerNest, for me personally, has provided a lot of connections. Like Darren and I first met through a HackerNest.
Yeah, it's true. I think we can safely say that this podcast would not exist were it
correct.
not for HackerNest events. So
Yeah, I
it's
agree.
kind of crazy.
Yeah, and Amaris, we met
you
through the
did it.
HackerNest as well. So thanks a lot, the HackerNest.
Amaris.
yeah.
Sorry.
I need to look at my,
Amaris.
Yeah, sorry, I just have
That's
to
my
correct.
American
I promised,
accent, I think.
I promised that I
Yeah.
would correct every time you messed it up. So
It's all right. We're all about being
There's only
corrected.
going to be 3 or 4 more.
That's true. And actually, a lot of the past guests that we've booked on the podcast have been people that we've met at HackerNest events or that we've spoken to while we've just been hanging out there. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's been great that way.
So
Yeah.
there's actually a distinction. So HackerNest is an organization, but what you guys are experiencing is a HackerNest tech social because
Right.
HackerNest also does other things. So
Okay.
we had a HackerNest job fair. We had we do hackathons. A lot of that stuff does happen in Toronto because that's sort of the biggest population.
Yeah.
But HackerNest is this organization that does stuff. What you guys know and what we experience here is tech socials.
Right. Right. Which are great too.
Yeah, and then
How long has HackerNest been around for? When did it start?
I was worried you'd ask that.
It was a cold and rainy night back in '82.
Give us like a rough guess. Is
It was
like
either 2011 or 2012.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Ish thereabouts. I
So-
could be way off. I might be getting a message right now from Shaharis telling me I'm wrong, but
Right.
yeah.
It would have to be like a message sent to the past from the future because we haven't posted the podcast
he's
yet.
like
but yeah.
that.
Oh,
That'd be
fair
cool.
enough.
Yeah.
He would
He
sense
time
it.
travels.
What I think it's really cool that it's only been around for like less than 5 years. Let's say, is it safe to say less than 5 years?
Yeah,
Let's say.
let's go with that.
And yet you've already spread across to so many countries, so many other locations, and seem to be doing really well. Making a real difference. Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask you guys a little bit about your own kind of background and interests in the startup and entrepreneurial community. Before we do that, we got to throw a shout out to our sponsor. We are sponsored by Igloo Software, and just give this a listen, guys. Learn a little bit more about what Igloo's intranet platform does, and we'll see you at the other end of this.
When you use our product, you should be able to use it right away.
Igloo is kind of like a big box of Lego. If you know how to use it, you can turn it into anything you want.
You don't have to have a giant crew to work with Igloo. You can just turn it on and it just works.
The good thing about Igloo is that it's not forcing you to learn how to use the platform. The platform learns how to be used by you.
I mean, my life could be drowning in paperwork, but instead I have one platform to keep my life organized.
Igloo, an intranet you'll actually like.
Well, you made it to the other end of that. What did you think?
Yeah, here we are. We are, once again, in case you forgot while you're checking out that commercial, we are speaking with Amaris and Melina.
I really prefer Amaris.
Really?
No, I don't. I was just looking for another correction.
Amaris and Melina, two of the organizers for HackerNest here in Kitchener-Waterloo. In case, for those who listen to us from out of town, we actually have a lot of listeners from other countries who are checking out this podcast. Whenever we say like KW, that's like Kitchener-Waterloo. Like it's a local phrase we use to.
It's a euphemism.
Because the two cities are essentially one thing. Like when you cross from one to the other, you don't even really know it.
If I'm standing in downtown Kitchener versus downtown Waterloo, I wouldn't know the difference.
People get upset about that.
Yeah. I think downtown Kitchener has a few more crazies.
But I've been
especially if I'm standing there.
Yeah, fair enough.
I've been given death glares for saying downtown Waterloo. It's uptown Waterloo.
It's uptown.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yes, we did that with the Billy
Yeah.
Joel reference last time on the Magnet guys. Yeah,
That's
Chad
right.
and
That's
Adam.
right. But there are awesome things happening in both Kitchener and Waterloo, and it is essentially the same community, I think,
Yes,
here, right?
definitely.
So just to clear up any confusion that might be going on with our international listeners, or even people from other parts of Canada who don't know this part of where we are.
Or people in Guelph.
Yeah, that's right. So diving back into things here. Both of you, this is a volunteer organization. You must have decided to volunteer with this organization for some reason. Maybe I can start with Melina here. Why did you decide to get involved with HackerNest?
I don't know if decided is quite the right word. I was
voluntold?
Yes, I was more told to do it
Okay.
by Amaris. But
so you guys knew each other before you were part of this group?
yes,
Somehow.
yes.
Do you want to go into any details about how that connection was
We
made?
actually worked together.
Oh, okay.
At the time when I decided to become an organizer, I had already gone to a couple HackerNest events, and I heard Neville was leaving, and I sent out this sort of innocent message to someone saying, "Hey, I heard Neville's leaving. Do you guys need some help?" And that turned into, "Hey, you're doing it."
Right.
And then, so I did the first one. Then I met, I knew Melina.
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey, dude, you should go to this.
Right.
And you should help."
You're
Right.
coming now. It's
And then-
tonight.
And then it quickly turned into, "Hey, you should help me organize."
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
And okay, so you guys were working at the same place before
Yeah.
somewhere?
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah, and Amaris basically, it was the Google event, was my first time going to HackerNest.
Oh, was
and,
that one? Yeah.
and my first volunteer experience. So I went there to volunteer, and then my next event, I think Clearpath was the next one.
Right.
And then
Right.
that was my first time organizing.
Wow.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So,
I've never attended a HackerNest event without
I'm sorry.
being a volunteer.
Wow.
I
Wow.
think next time, you know what? I'm not helping. I'll just
Not
go.
okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't like
Not
it.
Need a
okay.
week
You wouldn't
off.
like it. It's horrible.
But that's actually, we joke about that, but I
Yeah.
talked to, there's 6 organizers.
Yeah.
We figured out recently that no one actually volunteered 100% on their own. They were all voluntold by me to
Right.
be organizers.
Hey, but we
Excellent.
didn't object, so.
Yeah.
You're all
Yeah.
good listeners then.
Yeah.
Everyone's having a good time. So it's not like anyone's upset about it.
Yeah, sure. And
Yeah.
you seem to be voluntelling the right people because things are going well.
That's the
The
hope,
events
yeah.
are doing good. Okay, so Amaris, how did you end up getting involved in HackerNest then? Are you a hacker yourself?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm nerdy at heart, but I don't actually code
Okay,
yet. I'm sure there's always time.
sure.
I went to a bunch of networking events. I was trying to figure out where I wanted to be in sort of the career world. And I went to a bunch of networking events. Those networking events where you hand out business cards and you add LinkedIn connections and it's really impersonal and you shake hands and then you never talk to that person again.
And people with shady, like, multi-level marketing businesses that are trying to rope you in and stuff.
And a bunch of real estate agents that think that I'm going to buy a house.
That's right.
I don't have money for that. And so I actually met a friend there, and I was at all of those events. I met someone there who said, "Hey, you're kind of nerdy, and you like." It's fair. I take it as a compliment.
Sure.
And you like meeting people.
Yeah.
There's this thing that I heard about called HackerNest. You should go.
Right.
So off I went to HackerNest. It's actually, I think, where I met you for the first time. I met Joel there for the first time. We figured that out recently.
Wow.
And then I said, "Oh, I like this."
Yeah. And decided to dive in.
That was the genesis of departure for you.
So you say, and you're wearing a shirt that says "Talk Nerdy to Me," which I think is great today. So can you give us some of your kind of nerd credentials? Like,
I don't think I have
what
credentials.
level of World of Warcraft character do you have?
I don't play World of Warcraft either. I don't think I have like great credentials.
No. Are you into sci-fi or fantasy?
Oh yeah. I have a problem with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Name some of your top.
I don't know why I did this, but I sat down, and it's not like a great show. I just decided I needed to complete this to up my level of nerd.
Yeah.
But I sat down and I watched all of Stargate.
Oh.
Like all of them.
I've done that.
All of them.
Sure.
Wow.
I've also done the same with Battlestar Galactica and all sorts of other like ridiculous shows that it's important for me to watch in the nerd community.
Have you done Babylon 5?
It's on the list.
Okay, that was my big obsession in the '90s was Babylon 5. So yeah, I think if you're gonna have some true nerd credibility, at some point you've got to dive into Babylon 5. Yeah.
So Star Trek was my thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
As in middle school.
Yeah, and Star Trek is fine. Star Trek is like the milk, but when you want to move to the meat,
yeah. But I make people
step it up,
uncomfortable
right?
by like rhyming off the opening credits to Star Trek. That's like the intro nerd thing.
Sure,
I also
sure.
tinker with computers.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that I'm not going to build you a computer, but I can fix all your problems. I teach people how to use computers, and
Cool.
we haven't talked about my job here at Magnet, but I actually support IT and have done a lot of IT related things just because I figured out.
Sure. So IT tends to support the organization, and you're supporting IT. So ultimately, you're holding up the entire organization, I guess, in some way or another.
She's
I'm
Atlas.
allowed to say that.
I said it on your behalf, so it's okay. You can't get in trouble.
I got you a screwdriver, so I feel like that's something.
You're a problem solver. There's no
It's
question.
That's what I do.
Okay. Fair
Although
enough.
I still have a problem with this Stargate and Babylon 5 thing.
What?
What's wrong with it?
You don't
That
like Stargate?
lowers your nerd
Well,
cred
you
for
asked
me.
if I watched
Dude,
sci-fi. I mean, I've watched a
Yeah,
bunch
no.
of things. I watched
No.
Firefly.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you put
Firefly is
Battlestar
good, too.
Galactica in there, at least.
Listen,
But,
have you
yeah,
ever given
no.
Babylon 5 a chance? You gotta give
I'm
it a
gonna
shot.
go home and
man.
watch it.
Yeah,
Take the
watch
day
it,
off,
man.
and I'm gonna go watch.
It's a
Babylon
5-year
5.
story arc with it's not like Lost where they actually lost the plot halfway through the show.
Right.
They carry it all the way through. But I'm not here to talk about Babylon 5.
No, you can't
What
convert
are
me.
my other nerd credentials?
Yeah.
I like working with nerds.
Sure.
Yeah, you like
Much
nerds.
better.
That's what I was going to say.
Nerds
I
are
like
great
nerds.
people. And what about yourself, Melina? Would you consider yourself at a certain level of nerdmanship at all? Or you have a Batman
level
shirt.
number 50.
Yeah, a Batman shirt today, which
Yes.
speaks to your some kind of nerdishness. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose I'm supposed to be a programmer, but I kind of
Okay.
skipped that and ended up managing programmers.
Oh, fair enough. That's the track that programmers take, right?
Yeah.
They do it for a while and then they manage
And
other
that,
people
yeah,
for
I
a
just
while.
sort of
Yeah.
skipped it. I don't know how that happened, but
Cool.
but
What kind of programming were you involved in back when you were doing programming?
I was into web development.
Okay.
And a lot of the management stuff I've done has been people developing websites, so I kind of stuck with that, I guess. But
Okay.
yeah.
Do you have any favorite kind of things in the stack? Either
I
managing
was-
or developing yourself?
I was super into databases when I was programming, so
Oh, okay.
I guess I'm kind of a database nerd.
Yeah. Mongo?
Yeah. I don't know what that is. so-
MongoDB? No?
Are you trying to drop database words on?
I'm trying to.
Were you trying to be
somehow-
databasey there for a
I'm trying to
second?
show off my own nerdiness somehow, and it's
Oops.
not working.
Mongo? No, thank you.
Fair enough.
So
Yeah.
tell me, what was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
what was the transfer from a programmer to a manager like? Because I've been in the restaurant industry and I see it all the time where you take your best server and you make them the manager, and now you don't have a good server and you have a horrible manager now. I'm not saying that's the case for you, but a lot of times, like, you don't go through when you're programming. I'm in school for programming. We're not talking about how to manage people and be successful, right? We do talk about agile a little bit and some of that methodology. Yes. But how was that transition from dealing with code to dealing with people?
I actually, before I went to Conestoga for software engineering, and yes, and you're in that too, right? Yeah.
Condors, yeah.
Before that, I was at Conestoga for materials and operations management, so a business program.
So you are actually trained in both halves of the equation.
Yeah, so that kind of helped.
To the madness.
And I left the business program because I was kind of bored and I didn't feel like I was challenged.
Right.
And but it turned out once I started working, I got hired right away and basically combined the two and just started. I'm kind of like a business techie. I don't know.
That's a natural fit for you then.
Yeah.
I think you're underselling yourself because you actually don't just manage developers. You do anything that random comes up. Like
I wear many hats. Yes.
You were doing, I don't know, server stuff. And
yeah. I don't enjoy that stuff quite as much.
Well,
but
you can do it.
I kind of do whatever I have to do because we're a small company. So,
do you want to tell us what the company is? Are you allowed to? No, can't mention it. We'll keep it top secret.
Yeah, it's just a small consulting firm with literally like 3 employees. So
fair enough.
Yeah. Something Mexican because you're wearing a sombrero today.
Yes,
so that's interesting.
It's awesome how this is audio only, so we can say anything we want about how we look.
Absolutely.
And,
Are you saying she's not wearing a sombrero, Darren?
I'm not wearing pants,
is that what you're
but you would never know that from hearing the audio. Anyway, okay.
Wow.
Very cool. So where are things heading for HackerNest? Like, is the organization still expanding? Like, is it going places? Do you know? Like, do you got the inside track?
Before I started working at Magnet, I was pretty involved with Toronto stuff and headquarter HackerNest stuff.
Yeah.
I'm no longer involved in that, so I'm not really sure. I get sort of random emails occasionally, and I occasionally go to the Toronto event. But I can talk about what's happening in Waterloo.
Sure.
We recently went from bi-monthly. We've been bi-monthly for just over a year.
Yeah.
And then I think I voluntold everyone that we were going to monthly. I think that's kind of how it went. I asked what everyone's opinion was, and I got
some
kind
people
of
were like, "Oh, that's a lot of work." Other people were like, "Sure."
Well,
she was like, "All right, we're doing it."
Well, you're doubling the workload essentially for all the volunteers, right?
Yeah, but that actually meant that we're good at it now. We don't have to have meetings. We know what we're doing. I send ridiculous emails, and everyone knows what to do.
Sure.
So that's happening. We're also getting bigger. When we were at Magnet last month, we had 213 people, and that's our biggest outside of Google. Google was ridiculous. It was awesome, but ridiculous.
Yeah. A lot of security at Google.
Oh, yeah. Well, they got to manage that slide.
Yeah, that's true.
That was disappointing that no one was allowed to use the slide because the guards stood at the stairs, basically.
Did they really?
Yeah, and no pictures were allowed to be taken.
Of the slide?
Of inside Google at all, yeah.
I was there. I don't remember all the restrictions, but maybe I was,
I took my first and only selfie in Google, in the Google bathroom.
Right. And they didn't take the camera away from you?
No, they didn't know about it. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but they have a lot of mouthwash and amenities in their bathroom.
Yeah, they have a lot of amenities in general. Like,
yes, very nice.
I know we're going on a tangent here, but I just have to mention that, like, when I was in Google, so I have a friend who works at Google who gave me the tour. Like, I'm impressed by the stupidest little things, like free cookies and like free beef jerky.
I really like the walls that you can write on.
Yeah, the walls you can write on are cool.
And there's a Doctor Who. There's a Doctor Who room there.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I saw that. I saw the hammock room, and I saw some of the. I saw like they had like a rock band. Set
I'm
up
pretty sure there's a TARDIS on some wall that I've now decided it's a Doctor Who room. It may not be, but I definitely saw a TARDIS there.
All right, you're back to even with your nerd credit. The TARDIS was a good call.
Yeah, Steven's track.
I'm up to date with my Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there.
Fair enough. How did we get on that tangent again?
We were talking about Google. Google was a great event, but massive. So people came from outside of KW for that.
Right.
Because everyone wanted to see what was inside Google.
Slide.
Yep.
So that one's an outlier. We're not trying to say that one is normal. So we had about 350 people for that one. But usually we get just under 200 people, maybe 180. We had 180 in September.
Right.
But at Magnet in, what month was it?
last month.
May.
Oh, that's May.
Yeah, May.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
a little busy. We had 213 people was the final count, and 280 RSVP'd. So that was
Wow.
pretty big, and we're getting bigger.
Yeah.
I challenged our venue in July to try and reach Google numbers. So everyone, clear your calendars for July. We're going to
Extra
Vidyard.
slice of pizza.
Oh, is it Vidyard? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it could have been my very first HackerNest ever, I think, was Vidyard.
Mine too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there we go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a nice space there, so it'll be interesting to see if we can fill it.
They expanded.
Oh, did they? See, I
So
didn't
it's
even know.
still super nice, but bigger nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bigger nice is
Awesome.
excellent.
Bigger nice is good, yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this. Have you had a lot of opportunity to kind of mingle with entrepreneurs and people doing interesting startups through your involvement with HackerNest? Like,
That's an understatement. Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
I do a lot of, if you've ever seen me at a HackerNest event, I move fairly quickly.
Sure.
People can attest to that. I try and move at ridiculous speeds, but I do end up talking to a lot of people. That might be for 3 minutes. I hand out a lot of business cards. I do respond to emails.
Yeah.
And I talk to people on a regular basis at all the other bajillion events that I go to, either as a HackerNest representative or a Magnet Forensics representative.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I talk to startups all the time. I talk to people that are looking to,
Yeah.
start their own startup.
Right.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And what kind of what are the ones that might stick in your mind?
Have you seen the birth of any cool,
or
other
any
than this
startup-
podcast, perhaps?
That's right. Or any startups that you're like, that is ridiculous. You are never going to go anywhere. I don't know.
I can't remember which one it was at, but I met Andrew from Structured 3D Printing.
Yeah, we've had him on the
Mr.
podcast.
Finkel?
Yeah, so yes, him.
Yeah.
I met him at a HackerNest event, and I think I didn't retain a lot of it, but what he said was you can print in icing.
Right.
Yep.
And I said, instantly you can have my money, and I backed them on Kickstarter because they said I can print in icing, and that's just the way to my soul.
Awesome.
So that one sticks in my mind, again, because
Sure.
I like icing.
Sure.
I've heard some ridiculous startup ideas.
Yeah.
Occasionally people tell me about a great, they say, oh, I'm working on a startup, I got an app. Usually when they say I have an app, I face kind of.
Right.
Face palm.
Oh,
good.
App.
Right.
Not always is that a bad thing, but occasionally that is, and I have to say, did you hear about the other app that's exactly like that? So someone
Right.
comes and tells me about
But mine's
something.
different. It's blue.
Yeah, and so sometimes that works out. I mean, that doesn't mean that because you have an app that's just like someone else's, it's not going to work. Maybe yours is better.
Yeah.
But the number of times I've heard about an app that does exactly the same thing as LinkedIn is a little bit shocking.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So perhaps more time spent in the research phase of development would be.
Yeah, well, understanding that big companies can actually develop much quicker than you. So while your idea was great at the time you researched it, know that they're probably working on improvements, that you're hoping yours is going to be different because we do this. Know that the big company is probably already working on that, and they'll have it out way before you do.
Sure.
So I have, I think I almost made someone cry with that.
Yeah, but you were quick with the tissues, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Fair enough. What about yourself, Melina? Have you connected with any interesting startups or ridiculous ones in your time at HackerNest?
I've met tons of people. I have a hard time remembering some of them.
Sure.
But,
Sure. Or any new apps you've tried out as a result of meeting somebody? I can think of one myself, but I don't know. Yeah.
Sort of the challenge here is while we've met a ton of people,
Yeah.
we don't really want to align ourselves with anyone. We try and be pretty loyal to our no sales pitches, no agenda. We're not trying to promote anyone.
Right.
And that we do kind of do mentions to our sponsors because they back us, and we mention to our host because they back us.
Yeah.
And I don't want to shoot any small companies down, but I just try not to.
Play favorites.
I don't want to
and,
shoot anyone down that has great ideas. I don't want to say that person was an idiot because they had that idea. I just
Sure.
want it to be, we want everyone. And so we've talked to all sorts of people.
Sure.
yeah,
People
I've
looking-
made some great friends, that's for sure. And that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
I've met so many people. Like Amaris.
Yeah,
No,
sure.
we met before HackerNest. So.
What you guys who are listening didn't see is Amaris is like pointing to herself, like, mention me. You made my friends with me. That's awesome. You're very much like directing the flow of everything, Amaris. I think it's amazing. Yeah.
Telling you what to do.
You're the perfect personality to be organizing something like HackerNess. Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, the thing I'll just throw this out. I met just through networking and hanging out and events. I don't know if it was HackerNest or if it was something similar, but I met a guy who does Lightbot. If you guys ever heard of Lightbot, which is like
I have.
It's an app that teaches kids how to program through entering commands for a little robot to jump around on colored squares.
Oh, maybe I
that
haven't heard
sounds
that.
cool.
It's really cool, and it was a guy. I don't know if he's still at. He was in like the Velocity Garage or hanging out at Communitech a lot. I don't know if he's still there, but Lightbot. If you look it up on the App Store, you guys can check it out. My 5-year-old really likes it, so yeah,
Cool.
it's all good.
One of my favorite
yeah.
my favorite HackerNest story is that I met a gentleman at the Guelph HackerNest, and he was working out of the University of Guelph. I can't remember his name. But he
Nick.
was working on the NASA
Nick.
rover.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
Nick.
there you go. It's
I can't remember his last name, but I know that's
Yeah.
Nick. So, yeah.
What a cool
Yeah.
guy.
Oh,
Like, I didn't
he's-
realize that was in Guelph, right? Like he had actually wrenched on the rover, and then
Yeah.
they launched it to Mars, and now he directs it around and drives it around and stuff.
Yeah, he's a
It's one of
hilarious guy,
the
too.
one of the
Yeah.
instruments
Wow.
on the rover that
Like,
they control.
But he is at. Oh, does he himself drive the rover? Like,
No,
is
so he doesn't
acting
drive
as-
it, but he has to like say, okay, so we want to check out. I think he does one of the mass spectrometers or something. So
Okay.
he's like, I want to look at this rock today. So he has to submit to NASA the sort of a request for a certain amount of power and a certain amount of time because he wants to look at this rock, and there's a big sort of process that he has to go through.
Wow.
But he tracks it at the University of Guelph. They're looking at it every day and seeing what it's doing, and
Wow.
so that's happening, right here locally. So that was really, I was like, wow, you've actually wrenched on something that's sitting on another planet.
No, that's awesome.
That kind of brings up a good point that, like, I think a lot of people think HackerNest and they think startups. You
Right.
instantly
Right.
mention startups and entrepreneurs.
Sure.
The reality of HackerNest is it's not startups. It's
Right.
everyone. We want not just developers. We want nerds. So if you're nerdy and you're techie nerdy, whatever we want to call that,
Yeah.
then you should be at a HackerNest event.
Right.
It's not, so we get people that work at really big companies, 300-400 person companies, and
Yep.
or bigger.
Yep.
And we get people that, are still looking for work. We get students, we get people who are retired, we get professors, and that's the reality. Nick works for the university. He does awesome things.
Yep.
Yeah.
He comes to our events.
Yeah.
I actually met him at Google,
Right.
the
Yep.
Google event. Yeah.
And somebody else who I'm doing some startup work with, but who's also well established in his field, Bernie Roel. I don't know if you guys
Bernie,
know Bernie.
yeah.
Yeah,
we know Bernie.
He's usually at the Hackers Nest events too, and so
We love Bernie,
He and
yeah.
I do some VR stuff together, which is great. And maybe in a future episode of this podcast, I'll talk a bit more about that. But yeah, you're right. Like there are people who are not only people who are established in what they're doing, but might be looking to tinker on the side, and great people to connect with, especially for people like me who love taking on new projects and want to explore new opportunities. Right. So
Yeah, I was at the
Yeah.
last HackerNest walking through Magnet down the hallway, and I didn't stop to introduce myself, but I passed a group of young kids, and I heard them say as I was walking by, welcome to the Magnet Forensics Intern Group, or something like that.
Really?
So they were
yeah.
a couple kids that were just sort of, they're doing, it wasn't intern, what did he say?
Co-ops?
It wasn't co-op, but he used a word that was very much like co-op. It was
Was
basically,
one incredibly tall?
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
that's the current. Do we call them cohorts? I don't know.
Cohort?
Cool, yeah.
Current team of co-ops that Magnet has. There's
Yeah.
4 of them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that was
and
really
one is
cool, right?
incredibly tall.
Yeah.
I use them for all sorts of things, like, hey, I can't reach that, or hey, can you wipe down the whiteboard? I can't reach that.
Can you please talk to this giraffe and tell me what he's saying?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Make use of people's talents. That's what we say. Perfect. Cool. I can't remember if we were on a tangent or if we had somewhere we were going with
Let's
that.
tangent back to another
Well,
tangent.
we were kind of
Yeah.
tangenting on, like, who have we met and what
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of great ideas. So, like I said, we meet a lot of people. What ends up happening sometimes is we meet people that are looking for work.
Right.
What we try to do, and I don't know if that's across the board in organizers, since we all sort of have our different roles at events.
Yep.
But I try and find those people and connect them with either the recruiters or hear what they're looking for. I often, in the rest of my time, since I have so much of it, I help people sort of get some advice on their resume. Not that I'm an expert, but sometimes it helps to have someone on your side. I help connect them to people that are looking.
Yeah.
Hire them, give them some advice.
Well, and it sounds like you know a lot of people. So if you can
Try.
go through the mental Rolodex and say, like, oh, you do, Java, whatever, I know this guy is looking for someone with that skill set.
Yeah, but I try and give a lot of advice, and
Sure.
I think a couple of us do. some of the advice has actually been, hey, you should be more involved in the community, which is when they get voluntold to be volunteers.
You know, the lure of pizza is making me consider the options here. So
that's true.
Yeah,
and I'm
just afraid if I show too much interest, I'm just going to get voluntold. So I'm afraid to
I think that ship has left.
A shirt right now.
Yeah.
Man, I do need a new shirt.
Yeah, and she could review your resume, tell you to get MongoDB off of there.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
I don't know what that is.
Maybe that's what I need to do.
Sounds like a frozen yogurt.
It does.
It should be. Yeah.
It does. Cool. Well, I think it might be time to head into our lightning round. I have this habit of speaking over top of the thunder.
The thunder, you can never predict when it's going to come.
You gotta
that was lightning. That wasn't thunder. No, that was thunder. That wasn't
thunder.
lightning. Yeah,
Lightning doesn't make sense.
This is what on an audio podcast we should
we've
call it
been doing thunder
round.
for our lightning round.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amaris. Thanks a lot.
They go hand in hand. It's all good.
Now we need we're never going to be able to do that.
No. We'll call it lightning. We'll have the sound of thunder.
I'm just going to flash the lights from now on.
Okay, perfect. And you guys can all experience it vicariously through us.
And the sound you'll hear is like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah, that's right. Perfect. The lightning round. So we're going to throw a bunch of questions at you guys. Typically, these are questions that are oriented for people that are heavily involved in startups, but we can ask them for people who are helping support startups and the tech community as well. So I think we can go back and forth. Stephen, do you want to go?
Sure, I'll start.
You go first.
My first question for you guys is, this is something that I really struggle with, is when you go to a HackerNest event, how do you approach people? How do you meet new people?
Yeah, that is a
common... Give me some tips.
It's a common predicament. I can tell you how I do it, and then maybe Melina can tell you how she handles that.
Sure.
Right.
Everyone assumes I'm a big extrovert, which I kind of am, but I don't feel comfortable doing it either. It took practice. So my first HackerNest event was a little bit more awkward. Now I'm less awkward. You have to realize that everyone that's at that event is there to talk to people.
No one's going to look at you like, why are you talking to me?
Yeah, the reality is you just got to go up and you just have to say hi. You don't have to plan a bunch of things to say. You say hi, and the obvious thing is, where do you work? What do you do?
Yep.
Where do you wish you worked? You can start with that, and you just know that everyone likes to talk about themselves.
Sure.
We don't admit that, but that's true. Everyone likes to talk about themselves, so you just ask them questions about themselves. That then spirals into a great conversation.
Perfect.
You've just revealed our big secret.
Talk to people.
Or you find Amaris, me, and you tell me you're having trouble talking to someone, and I will force you into a group.
Perfect.
You've voluntold some conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also, if you feel like you're an awkward nerd and you don't want to talk to people, I always remember that you're in a room full of other awkward nerds.
Sure.
And then it kind of makes me feel better about it.
You can bond over the awkwardness, right?
Right,
So,
it's true.
Are you having as hard a time talking to strangers as I am, and suddenly you're talking to somebody, right?
Yeah.
Right.
My question it kind of goes along with that. So my question is, if you are in a conversation that is a very awkward, weird conversation, what is your advice for how to politely get out of that conversation?
I have just the product for you.
Yeah.
It's called the TO.
Apart from using Ivan's product, yes.
What always works for me is that I'm a volunteer, or I'm managing the volunteers, and I always have to be like, I have to go check on my guys.
Interesting. Okay.
I kind of use the same strategy. That's part of the reason I move so quickly at events.
Right.
But a good strategy is, hey, it was great to meet you. I'm going to go meet some other people. It was nice meeting you. I'm going to go talk to some other people. I was here to meet lots of people. So I'm trying to, you move that way. The reality is, because a HackerNest event is so packed, it's really easy to quickly get out of that situation. We don't offer any seating for that reason. I know that some people complain and wish there was chairs and wish there was couches, wish there was something to do.
Yeah.
The reality is, if you're in a chair, you're stuck in that chair, and when you're talking to someone weird, you're stuck in that chair talking to someone weird. When you're standing up, it's really easy for you to move away.
Like when I hear Stargate, I'm out of there.
Right, that's fair.
But if I'm sitting, oh my God.
Yeah, there you go.
What are you going to do?
I'll throw one more in the mix here. Is I often say, I've got to go get another drink.
Yep.
And I often do go get another drink.
And there's just strategies like that. If you are talking to someone that is making you really uncomfortable, know that HackerNest has a no douchebag rule.
Oh.
If they're making you really uncomfortable and they're really creepy, really rude, sleazy, whatever, we try and make it okay for everyone.
Yeah.
If that's happening, you go get me. I know I'm little, but I'm mean, so I will move those people out of there. That's what I get to do, and that's what other organizers get to do. That we have a no douchebag policy. That means I get to boot you.
I have full confidence in your ability to deal with douchebags.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
I wonder what kind of hat Melinda would wear.
Melina.
Melina. would wear. We have a Melinda, a friend of ours that's
fair,
Melinda. So that's why I asked her.
So
when
I'm
you
on
came
like
in, Melinda?
hypersensitivity
You're
for
like,
names.
No, it's all good. You need a hat that says "I deal with douchebags" or something.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh,
Something
that
along
would be
those
good.
lines.
Just
Yeah.
turn the sombrero
I
around
have
or
like
something.
a geek nerd
Or
hat.
I
think I need to
dispose
get
of
one that's
douchebags.
yeah.
Maybe that's. I don't know.
No, that
Maybe
could,
not.
that could get weird.
Maybe not.
That'd be a
yeah.
big seller.
Where are you going to wear that? Nursing homes would love it.
There's only so many places you can wear that. That's true.
Who's your target market, Darren?
Let's move on to the next question. How about that? I think it's your turn, Steven.
So how do you keep track of all the events that are happening around town? Because HackerNest is one that happens monthly. That's awesome. But like you said, you're a woman around town. You got to move that A-frame around. So what's
Holy innuendo here.
how do you keep track of that?
I don't know if I want to go with that definition of myself.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Like, where do I find Amaris if you're at another event?
Amaris, man. Amaris.
Yes.
See,
That's
I'm taking
never
over
gonna
the
happen.
correction.
That's never going to happen.
WattCamp is an excellent tool for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've met the person who handles WattCamp, but they're amazing. They keep a list of everything that's happening in town, or as best they can. And if they're missing something, you just email them with details. I'm sorry,
Yep.
I don't know who it is, and I would really love for them to come to the next HackerNest and meet me so
Sure.
that I can finally cover that.
Hopefully they'll listen to this podcast
Yeah.
and totally connect with
I'm going
us
to
as a
tweet
result.
this to them.
Yeah, perfect.
So that's a really good tool. Also, Communitech has a community calendar. Kaylee Platts from Communitech writes a tech about town, and she always at the bottom posts all sorts of neat events that are coming up.
Right.
That's one good tool. Also, I stare at Eventbrite.
Right. And Meetup.com has stuff.
Meetup.com, yeah.
local as well,
If
yeah.
if you're a developer in a certain language or you're into a certain thing,
Yep.
there's a meetup group for you.
Sure. Awesome. Oh, it's my turn, I guess.
your turn.
Right? If you were to, can you give us one piece of advice for new startups in 5 words or less? Melina? We're putting you on the spot.
Go
for this
to HackerNest.
Nice.
Yes.
Very well done.
one. Oh, that's well put. Okay. Fair enough.
I don't know.
She stole your answer, I think.
No, I was going to say
Don't miss a HackerNest.
figure out how you make money.
Figure out how to make.
It's all about revenue.
Oh, yeah, revenue. Let's go with that.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of startups miss that, so yeah.
Sure. Okay. Fair enough.
So shout out to the Communitech Rev
Yes.
Yeah.
cohort that's happening.
Hopefully we'll have some more Rev folks on a future episode. But anyway,
Yeah.
your turn.
So
Steve.
we're talking about entrepreneurship. Do you guys have any individual projects or cool things that you're working on?
Startup-y, entrepreneurial
Startup-y
stuff.
things
yeah.
or
What was that?
collections of
We were gonna
Batman
make you an
shirts? Or,
app.
Yeah.
I always have
To-
app ideas.
Make it
to
an app?
manage events.
Do you wanna share?
That never happened.
I
Yeah.
really want someone to make me a calendar app.
Yeah.
It's confusing. Someone kind of does it, but it just doesn't work for me.
Like Google Calendar is not cutting it? Or?
No. See, I have 7 different email addresses that I keep different events in, and I need to join them
manage
all
it.
together, which my BlackBerry phone does great.
Sure.
But I want to be able to put that out to the world in a not creepy way to say, if you need to book me for, hey, resume help, hey, advice for whatever, or hey, you want me to come to your event, or you want me to run your event, which happens all the time, you can look at that app and then you would know when I'm free, which is never.
Right.
book in advance, folks.
Yeah.
Please make a reservation.
There you go.
Even
it's
just to hang out casually.
Yeah.
I gotta put it in our calendar.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it
she's-
works and she's there. So I
Yeah,
know.
she sends me different, like she knows which email address to send it to. So Melina recently moved and she put move Melina in my calendar, but my personal calendar. And then she said HackerNest meeting. She put that in my HackerNest calendar. It was great.
Wow.
Sort of like Ron
There you go.
Burgundy just reads anything on the teleprompter. You just look at your calendar and go wherever it says
It's got to be
you're
the right
supposed to
color.
be,
It's all
right?
color coded. It's important. Yeah.
Sweet.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
great
yeah.
when you've trained your friends to post on the proper calendar.
Melina gets it. Melina and I work together well. So
Sure. Excellent.
That's awesome.
I'm going to just throw out a super simple fast one. Mac, PC, or Linux?
I love Mac, but I am a PC because with work, it makes things simpler.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yeah. What about yourself? Amaris?
PC, I despise Mac.
Really?
It makes me angry. Anything that has an I on it, I get angry.
It's not
like
just a
Apple.
matter of preference. It's a matter of like, I despise.
I feel like I'm being ripped off every time.
I have this really cool pizza app on the Apple that you need to take a peek at.
I don't know if you noticed, but I have a BlackBerry, so
Yeah.
clearly I don't care that
Is that a BlackBerry or a placemat?
That
much.
is
Phablet.
It is
It's
large.
huge.
El
It could work as a
Grande.
big coaster too.
It's got a kickstand.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, with a
That's a
HackerNest
Kickstarter.
Tech Nerds Unite sticker on it.
Of course,
Excellent.
of
Very
course.
nicely done.
Wow.
So my question for you guys is, what do you struggle with? What's the thing that you can't, what's your weakness? What's your superpower weakness other than kryptonite?
I suck at talking to large groups of people and such things like this.
Oh, you're doing awesome.
We're not
Yeah.
that large a group.
4 people, that's a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
But it's something I've worked on a lot, actually, and HackerNest has helped me with it. So,
Sure.
yeah, I don't know.
I think you've done a fine job.
Well,
so
thank you.
far.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I struggle with saying no to anything that's an event.
Gotcha.
So I struggle with trying to manage my time. I take on a lot.
Sure.
I help run all sorts of events around town, and I run events here at Magnet and obviously HackerNest.
Right. Okay. Oh, is it my turn? What question are we on?
I'm going to do a
now?
follow-up to Amaris.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Do
Yeah,
you
do it, man.
ever, so do you have to go home and sort of wrap up in a cocoon sometimes to recharge
Yep,
the battery?
totally.
Or?
Yeah. That's how I know I'm not a full extrovert.
Right.
Is that I spend all my time working with people and talking to people and mingling with people, talking to strangers. But
that
I'm
still drains you?
oh yeah, I need to go home and hide.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so mine's kind of the flip side of what Steven asked. What is something that you guys are really amazing at? I think, Amaris, we've kind of heard a lot about your, ability to,
Voluntoldism?
yeah.
I'm bossy.
Subtly getting things done?
So maybe we'll start with Melina first. Not to sound too braggy, but what's something you think, I've really mastered this skill?
I think I really enjoy and I feel like I'm good at motivating people.
Okay.
Getting them to, letting them know that they're good at something and also letting them know things that they need to work on.
Sure. So the positive encouragement with the constructive criticism.
Yeah, for
in
sure.
good manner.
And by not putting them down, because not everybody's great at everything. And
Yeah.
it's always good to know those things you need to work on.
Sure.
And I've noticed it's kind of comes naturally to me to just let people know, how they can make things better and but also tell them that they're the best.
That's awesome. And I think that's an amazing quality in somebody doing management, people management, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have that, you're not going to be able to do a good job.
I
Yeah.
agree with her. She's very good at that.
Excellent.
Balance of the carrot and the stick.
Yes.
What about yourself, Amaris? I feel like we've heard all about your skills so far. Maybe we've kind of covered that.
Yeah, we've heard it.
Okay,
I'm bossy and I run events. I'm good at those things.
She's good at putting together IKEA furniture.
Yeah,
really?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I keep
a
her
hidden
around.
skill.
Yeah. And apparently we learned this morning that not only do you have a bike, but you have the whole bike outfit.
Yeah, I do.
That
Yeah.
he went all the way down the
I
line.
have
on
2
that one.
bikes.
Wow.
So a serious biker then.
Uh,
Not Harley, but
No,
10 speed.
Yeah.
No, I used to be,
Yeah.
and so I'm pretending like I am now.
Sure.
So I thought if I put the shirt on, people would know it.
Yeah, you look the part this
The
morning.
first step
Yeah.
is dress for the role, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Right.
you're doing great.
I wonder if
Yeah.
you won the race this morning or what place you came in.
I got here.
Yeah, so that was a win.
I showed up. That's what it's all about. Okay, I think we got one more from you, Steve.
So my final question, I'm going to give you guys kind of an open one. You can change anything in the world. What do you guys want to do?
Oh, dude, that's a hard
That's a
question.
hard one.
Too open?
Yeah, that's a bit too vague. Like,
How about Monty Python or Mr. Bean?
Wow, that's a change of.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Monty Python for sure.
Yeah.
What do I want to change?
Mr. Bean all the way, I'd say.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
You guys are going to have some discrepancy afterwards?
I think so.
Dissension in the
Mr.
ranks?
Bean is so repetitive. It's like, yeah, it's the same face. He makes that same face every single time.
It's a good face, though.
I know, it is. It is. So, I'm not saying it's horrible, but if I have to pick Monty Python, there's a variety of faces to look at.
Yep.
Sure. Okay, fair
That's
enough.
valid, yeah.
I'm firmly Monty Python, too. I was just playing devil's advocate there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Fair enough. I'm selective. I like some Mr. Bean, I like some Monty Python, but I don't like all of either, if that makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah.
This was not a ride down the middle. This was pick a side.
Yeah, fair enough. But I'm the one asking the question, so I have to be,
It's my ball.
So the last one, I'm just going to throw our bonus question at you. I think we did 10 questions altogether, including your follow-up one. Our bonus question is always toilet paper, fold, or scrunch? Which side do you land on?
I don't know.
Talk about not being
Yeah,
nice.
probably
Scrunch,
scrunch.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't have time for that.
Yeah? Put time for folding.
Who does fold? That just seems like.
Oh, there's a lot of them, apparently.
Apparently, I'm the only
Yeah.
folder in the room
Really?
today.
Oh,
But
you
we've
need to
had
get-
many folders on
You
past
need to get other
podcasts.
things in your life.
Nah, I like to keep things organized.
Yeah,
That's funny. I like
oddly,
that
a lot
question.
of programmers are folders.
Yeah.
Really?
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Logical.
Yeah, logical.
And
Yeah.
I find a lot of the creative people are more crunchers. Scrunchers? Scrunchers.
Scrunchers.
Yeah.
You could scrunch. We're not judging.
I'm going to ask my whole family that question.
Yeah, you should.
Please don't
I'm
tell
very
them where it
interested.
You
came
know what?
from.
It's one of those things that nobody thinks about until
tweet
you
it.
get asked. So, anyway, very cool. Well, guys, I think we're coming up on the end here. So before we wrap things up, do we want to throw any kind of shout-outs or future event notices out there now? Next HackerNest is
on Monday at 8
Yeah.
o'clock at Boltmade. You can find it on our meetup page. So that's meetup.com/HackerNestKW. You
Right.
should have all the details there. We just, like I said, we are at Vidyard in July, and we just figured out where we're going to be in August and September.
okay.
And I will probably know October in the next couple days, and I already know November. So
Wow.
Boltmade is 187 King Street West.
I don't know, Bower Kitchen.
Yeah.
Above that.
Above the Bower Kitchen. Yeah. It's
Sweet.
kind of on your way to Uptown Waterloo.
I'm sure I
Shout
put
out to the
address.
charcoal group.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there we go.
Maybe they'll cater.
Ooh.
I doubt that.
I doubt it.
Yeah, maybe, probably not.
Fair enough. I have actually been to Boltmade for a different meetup in the past, and they've got a really nice setup
Yeah.
there and great people.
They
so,
have
yeah.
they have some great meetups for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Have you
sure.
been to the Bower Kitchen?
I have.
Okay.
And it's also very good. Yeah, yeah, good stuff.
You ever been to a meetup at the Bower Kitchen?
Dun, dun, dun.
You know, I have been.
Me too. Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if we were at the same one because it was
Probably.
one of those ones with lots of shady characters.
Yeah. Was there a real estate agent?
Yeah.
You guys were both
Yeah,
definitely
we were both there.
Yeah, I think that was it. Crazy.
It's a small world,
There's
isn't it?
connections everywhere. It's true. Cool. And so we got good stuff coming up for Hacker's Nest. Hopefully, anybody listening to this, if you live local or within driving distance, please come on out and check it out. There's good beer, there's good people, and now you know how to start and get out of conversations. I think you're fully set. Yeah, excellent. Well, let's close things up here. We want to throw out a special thanks once again to Amaris and Melina,
Also
representing
known as
HackerNest.
Amaris and Melinda.
If you're
No.
Steven, yes. Thank you so much for joining us today on our episode of TSP Weekly. Thank you to Magnet, or I guess Amaris, for somehow wrangling our use of this room from Magnet.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
Which is great. Always nice to be hosted in a nice location like this. And thank you to our listeners for joining us on another episode of TSP Weekly. Please feel free to send us your questions, your comments, your criticisms, your feedback.
Your lightning round questions.
Yeah, if you have anything you want us to ask people, seriously, suggest them to us. It's awesome. You can reach us by email at feedback@tspweekly.com. Or, excuse me, or you can join us, or you can send us a message on Twitter, or follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @TSP Weekly. So for myself, Darren Conley, and my co-host Stephen Campbell, as well as Amaris and Melina from HackerNest, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all next week.